Hey everybody, this is Xehanort Kamatazi, and I am on my Scoundrel, and I'm going to go over the Ruffian spec. I'm going to be going over things to note from the discipline path, however, it is not everything. So please read over every single one of them, so that way you get a better understanding of your spec. This will potentially help you find a better rotation than what I have, and that will better match your playstyle. I will also be going over my utility points and some things I recommend as substitutes. And again, I recommend you read over everything there. That way you're able to find a spec that better matches your playstyle. Of course, I'll be going over the rotation that I have set up, and I will also be going over my usual player tips at the end of the video. So to get started, under the skiffle for utility points, I have Scar Tissue, which increases damage reduction by 5%, and I also have Let Loose, which Lacerating Blast will have an increase in damage by 25%. As a substitute, you can always get Spell Get Up, which reduces all area of effect damage taken by 30%. Under Masterful, I have Med Screen, which your defense screen heals you for 5% of your maximum health when it collapses. I also have Keep Cool, where Cool Head will immediately restore 15% additional energy. This helps with energy control if you happen to be struggling with that. You could also use Anatomy Lessons, which reduces the energy cost of Dirty Trick and 10 Blast by 5 and makes 10 and Blast immobilize the target for 2 seconds. And you can also use Curbing Strategies, where Quick Shot and Lacerating Blast reduces the movement speed of targets they damage by 40% for 6 seconds. And in addition, when Flash Grenade ends, it leaves behind Flash Powder that reduces the target's accuracy by 20% for 8 seconds. Under Heroic, I use Dirty Trickster, which Surrender purges all movement impairing effects when activated. And in addition, when Tranquilizer wears off, the target is struck by Sedatives, reducing all damage dealt by 50% for the next 10 seconds. I also use Smuggle Defenses, which reduces the cooldown of Escape by 30 seconds, Defense Screen by 5 seconds, and Smuggle by 1 minute. You could also use KO, where when used from Stealth, Back Blast, and Point Blank Shot, interrupt and knock down the target for 3 seconds. Player targets are immobilized for 3 seconds rather than being knocked down. Under Legendary, I use Hotwire Defenses, where it increases the amount of damage absorbed by defense screen by 30%, as well as back at you. Activating Dodge will grant it, returning 150% of direct single target tech and force damage taken back to the attacker while Dodge is active. You can always use Surprise Comeback, which Pungency now additionally grants Surprise Comeback, restoring 5% of total health every 3 seconds and reduces damage received by 20% for the duration. Some things to note. Your Bushwhack will spread Vital Shot as long as it damages the target that has Vital Shot on it. Blaster Whip will cause your target to be susceptible for 45 seconds, which increases the tech damage the target takes by 5%, and it'll proc your Brutal Shot, granting 1 upper hand every 10 seconds. Or at least it'll have a chance to proc the Brutal Shot anyway. Trap Bomb will cause your target to become assailable for 45 seconds, which increases the elemental and internal damage the target takes by 7%. And Scamper will give a Scarly or Scary or whatever I have written down here. I'm sorry. Which causes your next Cold pack to become an instant cast with a 10-second cooldown. Point Blank Shot will grant Cut to Quick, which increases your crit chance and multiplier of damage and healing dots for 30% for 6 seconds. Anyway, as for the rotation, I have it set up to where I'll start off with Blaster Whip, followed by Shrap Bomb, followed by Sanguinary Shot, Lacerating Blast, Vital Shot, Bushwhack, followed by Brutal Shots, Point Blank Shot, Thermal Grenade, and then Quick Shot. Then we'll just be going right back and doing that entire thing all over again, starting with Blaster Whip. You'll just be going over in circles. So to get started here, we'll be starting off with Blaster Whip, followed by Sharp Bomb, Sanguinary Shot, Lacerating Blast, Vital Shot, Bushwhack, Brutal Shots, Point Blank, Thermal, and Quick Shot. I'm going right back through for Blaster Whip, Sharp Bomb, Sanguinary, Lacerating, Vital Shot, Bushwhack, Brutal Shots, Point Blank, Thermal, and then Quick Shot again, etc., etc. So for our player tips, it's going to be the same as I have been saying for a long time for all my videos. We're going to be in Legacy, which is brought up by your Y button. I am currently under Global Unlocks and Other. Starting with Alignment, I recommend to max out your Light's Attunement. That way you can unlock your Unity ability. Unity is unlocked by, well, not unlocked, but you can activate your Unity ability when your companion is out with you. And when you do activate it, you take half the damage for 15 seconds. And that's along with you and your companion. So essentially, you get an increase to damage, 50% of damage reduction for 15 seconds. Ship unlocks, you do not have to have. It's all the important stuff is available to you on the fleet. However, if you just can't find the training dummies or on the fleet, or if you like to use training dummies in peace and private, you can unlock them on your ship for ship unlocks for both operations as well as Warzone. For convenience, if you're going to use priority transport personal starship, which I'll explain when we get to character perks here in just a moment, I recommend that you max out the priority transport personal starship. I recommend you max out Legacy Travel, and I recommend you max out Legacy Fleet Pass. Reason being, you'll be able to have 0 cooldown whatsoever on your Fleet Pass, Quick Travel, and your personal starship abilities. All three of them will have no cooldown, allowing you to port around all day just for the heck of it and look like you are the boss. I also recommend that you get tactical markers. This way, if you're leading operations or flashpoints, you can mark out where each of the roles are going to be at prior to the boss fight. And in which case, hopefully, the boss fight will go a lot smoother other than absolute chaos. I also recommend that you get improved mounting where you could mount while moving. I personally find this addicting and very helpful, so you don't have to take the 2 extra seconds to stop, mount, and then start moving again. You can just keep moving non-stop. Under character perks, for advancement, I recommend getting what you're going to focus on. So PvPers for war zones, PvEers, Flashpoint, and for the questers, get class mission and exploration. These two go hand in hand very beautifully. Under travel, as mentioned, I recommend that you get the personal starship. This way, if you are working on your class story, and your class storyline is telling you to go to your starship, and you have just completed the last heroic mission on the planet, and you are in the middle of nowhere. Instead of having to find the nearest flight path and take the speeder over to the spaceport, you can just simply click on the personal starship and go directly to your starship indoors. I also recommend that you get side planets such as CZ-198 in case you keep forgetting on where that is on the galactic map and you would like to go over to the side planets in order to do the heroic missions on there, or if you would like to do the flashpoints and you like to go to the flashpoints in person. For convenience, especially for the players who are low level and leveling up, I like to get the field repair droid first. This way I am able to sell and repair anywhere that I am at, and even in the middle of an operation where we have just downed a difficult boss, myself and all my raid members are able to repair after the boss fight. I also recommend spending 200,000 credits in order to get the field respec. That way you don't have to keep going to the fleet and just to be able to respec there. This way you are able to respec just about everywhere at any time. This way you can go switch between the DPS roles from what you dislike to what you like, vice versa, or just play around in all the specs at any given time. This is especially helpful if your healer drops group and you are able to go from a DPS role to a healer to keep the group moving, or if you are a tank and your tank drops group and you're DPS and you happen to have your tank gear in your inventory, you can go from the DPS role, equip the tank gear, and be able to respec to tank role and keep the group moving then as well. The last two things I have for you go hand in hand here. First one being Legacy of Altruism, which increases the amount of companion influence gained from companion gifts by 10% with each level here. Starting off with basic to a 10% increase from basic, 10% from the first game, 10% from the second game. Same thing, which goes hand in hand with Legacy of Promptness, which reduces the time taken to give gifts to companion gifts. It says by 20%, however it's 20% per level. Again, 20% reduced from the default, then 20% from the first gain, then 20% from the second gain as well. This one will, legacy of promptness will go from 3 seconds to give to your companions down to roughly 1.6 seconds for giving gifts to your companions, which will save a lot of time if you happen to have a lot of gifts to give to your companions. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys. Welcome to playing an operative, and I wish you guys the best of luck in the Ruffian spec.